Hey y'all, alright, as you can see, we're back out here working on the $50 318. And just a quick little update. Like I said in one of my previous videos, this is getting water in the oil, and I thought it was the intake manifold gaskets, especially those sheet metal gaskets. I don't think that was helping my case. So I've got better intake manifold gaskets right there. But before I decided to put the intake manifold on or anything, I decided to do a little test. So I put water in here. After about a gallon, then I started getting water coming out of the oil pan because I've still got the oil pan drain plug out. So water was coming out there, and it was like after a gallon. But so I could get an entire gallon in here, and it was fine. It was just after that 1 gallon, then it was like, okay, yeah, now all hell's gonna break loose. So that leads me to believe that maybe there's a head gasket issue. So there could be also a cracked block or a cracked head, but I'm tending to lean more towards a head gasket. Now keep in mind, I have very little known in the way of any sort of history on this engine before I got it. The owner before I got it, he'd never ran it, he'd never had it in anything. It was just sitting in his garage the entire time. So there we go. Okay. But first, in this video, first I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. We're now over 2,300 subscribers. It's amazing. I thank you so much for that. The likes and the shares and the subscribes. It's awesome. I cannot thank you enough. I've even had a viewer give me a super thanks, which is even more awesome. So thank you to that viewer who gave me the super thanks. I really appreciate it. I've thanked him personally, but anyway, just wanted to call him out even though I don't remember his name. But anyway, viewer asked me about 318 LAs and more specifically 318 LA roller engines and the Magnum engines, both being roller lifter engines. That is true. Now, Magnums all through the push rods. Okay, LAs do not. LAs all through the rocker shaft. Okay, this one's off the $50 318. We'll go right over here to the $50 318 and look here. That passage coming from the camshaft oiling passage, that passage passes up to the head and comes up, and look here. See how that's kind of misshapen? It's not perfectly round. Let's get a little bit better light on that so you can see. You see that passage there in that pedestal? That's your passage for the oil to come up through there and into your rocker shaft over here. Okay? So oil comes up in there, comes up in through that passage into the rocker shaft, and then lubricates the entire, goes out through there and lubricates everything. I can show you here on the back side. There's even a hole right there. See that hole? That's where your oil comes out. Also, too, see that hole in the hole in the rocker arm? That is for oiling the rocker arm tip. Okay. So now we go back over here and look right there. And look right here. This passage comes up to here and oils this. Oil comes through this pedestal through there into the rocker shaft and goes out. and feeds oil all out to all of the rocker arms. Okay, and then also to the tips, but also to, let's go back over here to the rocker arm. Let's see, I think I have some cleaned up rocker arms to allow you to see something here. I know I've got some cleaned up. I just don't have them out here right now. But some, not all of these, but some of these will even have a hole here on the rocker arm here to spray oil onto the valve springs. But like I said, not all of them do that. Now, so you've got pressure and spray lubrication going on up here. Okay. Now, for your Magnum, I don't have a Magnum tore down here, and I don't have any spare Magnums. I'm not going to go pulling the valve covers and the rocker arms off of this one because it's running really great, and I don't want to mess with it right now. So, it's running great for what it is. It's a 239 V6 that consumes a little bit of oil. So, there you go. So, that being said, that out of the way. My viewer asked the question, has Mopar ever used, on the LA318, have they ever used a push rod that oils through the, they lubricate everything through the push rod. They send oil up from the lifter, up through the lifter, up into everything else. Well, yes, on the Magnum, as we can see here, here's two LA318 roller lifters. This one does not have any kind of provision to oil through the push rod. This one does. Now, we're going to get out the there, 0.903. 903, 902, yeah, there we go. Now, here's the thing. AMC also uses this style of lifter, this size of lifter, okay, this size. I'm not an AMC expert. I don't have any AMC engines here. I do know they do use the same lifter, okay? So, because they use the exact same part number in a whole lot of AMC engines, V8s and straight sixes. That being said, I'd say at one time at AMC, I'd say before that second generation V8 came out in '66, I'd say, and I have this is just me thinking, that there was probably some executives at AMC that were like, hey, we're developing this new V8 engine, and we need to save some money somewhere because we need to cut costs, because AMC never had any money. They were almost always broke, it seemed like. So they thought, hey, why don't we use this same size lifter as Chrysler does, because they've already done all the research, the development, the engineering, the testing, everything, and they've proven it's a good part. So I'd say there's some AMC engineers in 64, 65, 63 even, they were thinking that, and they said, okay, yeah, let's do that. So they did it. Now fast forward to 1993 or so, and then here's Dodge engines with pedestal mount rocker arms and rocker shaft and no rocker shafts and push rods. This is a Chevrolet push rod, by the way. and push rods that oil goes through the push rod to lubricate all of the rocker arms and the valve springs and the valves. Now, before you go any further, why does a valve spring need to be lubricated? To keep it cooler. In operation, the valve opening, the valve getting opened, and then the spring pushing it back creates a lot of heat for the valve spring. So they need to dissipate some of that heat through the oil. Now remember, one of oil's jobs is to cool the engine down, cool the engine off. Okay, that's one of its jobs, is to carry away some heat. So, now, is there a possibility that at some point or time they could have used a push rod like this on these rocker shaft engines? Yeah, it's very possible. I'd say there was probably an executive at Chrysler at some point or time, even though I've never seen any LA 318 engines or LA 36, any LA engine with oil through push rods. Okay, now this may look like an oil through push rod. It is not. Okay, let's go over here to $50 318, and I'll trip on something, and then I'll come over here, and then look at that. There's a little black dot there in the center. That is not a hole. Okay, we'll go over here where the light's a little better. You can see that is not a hole. So anyway, my guesses are, now here's something else too. This is a flat tappet LA 318 push rod. This is a roller 318 push rod. So some things to keep in mind, some things to consider. Okay, so my guesses are that you probably had some of the Chrysler engineers, and remember, Chrysler bought AMC out, and the Dodge trucks at that time didn't have really a whole lot going on in the way of engineering. So probably what was going on was that by 1987, when they bought Jeep and AMC out, Chrysler did, they brought in Jeep's engineers, and they said, all right, you guys are going to work on be in charge of truck engineering. And there for a while, they even called it JTAG, JTAG, Jeep Truck Engineering Group, because they were engineering the Jeeps and the trucks. So, that being said, Dodge trucks didn't have much in the way of engineering before that. After 1979 or 80, yeah, their engineering department was cut back severely. And I'll get into that in another video. It's a little more historical video. But, so, when the Jeep truck engineers came along, they was like, hey, 318 is pretty, we need to update the 318, we need to update the 360. They're pretty good engines. They've already done this little bit of engineering work here of putting these roller lifters in here. And this is the same size lifter we've been familiar with in the AMC engines. So they were probably thinking, hey, let's send a few LA 318s out the door with oil through push rods, the correct length, of course, and see how that works. And with lifters that will accommodate. See, this one doesn't have the hole in the pocket there. That one does. Now, it's no surprise that these are physically the same lifter as a Magnum lifter. And when you look up a Magnum and you look up an LA 318, Roller 318, they use the same lifter. Okay? No big surprise. So, with that in mind, it's not, I've just learned, over my years of being involved with Mopars, I've always learned, one very important lesson: never say never in Mopars. So, anyway, all right. I hope this answers everybody's questions about that. So there is a possibility that they could have used an oil through push rod on an LA318, especially during those last couple of years before the Magnum came out, maybe. Let's say 91. Yeah, because the Magnum came out in 92. Magnum 318, the Magnum 239 came out in 92. Is it possible to have something like that happen? Yeah, very possible. I mean, think about it. They could send maybe a few hundred or so LA 318s and LA 239s, and maybe even some LA 360s with, they were all roller lifter engines with the throttle body injection at the time in 1991, for the 91 model year, that is. Maybe they sent a couple of thousand, maybe a couple hundred. I don't know, but maybe they were able to track them and keep track of them, maybe like in a fleet kind of operation where they could keep close tabs on them and make sure that these engines were going to work and survive and do everything they were supposed to do. And, not have any oiling issues, not even lifter issues or issues with push rods or rocker arms or anything like that. So, and then, those fleet vehicles probably got sold, to second-hand and third-hand people, fourth and fifth and whatever. So, there you go. That's just me coming up with a somewhat educated guess, I guess. All right. So, if I had to guess, that'd be my guess. So, anyway, all right. That's enough of this. That's enough of this video. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any further questions about this, you are smart. You know what to do. Put it down there below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, humanly possible. So I thank you so much. This particular video was inspired by a question. I've had quite a few videos over the past year that has been done because of questions that you people have posted, and I thank you so much. These are some really great ideas. So thank you for that. All right, so God bless. Have a great one. We'll see you later.